Today we're going to discuss configuring the firewall using the portal. So as you can see right here, I'm in my dashboard logged into the Triton Portal. Yours might look slightly different depending on the configuration. I've already provisioned two instances, Web Test 1 and Web Test 2. They're both Space LTS SmartOS instances, Apache pre-installed so that I can go ahead and use the web server. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and go to that public IP address. It's going to give us some information, a public IP and a private IP. I've added a fabric network, and that will come in handy later, and I'll show you why. And we're going to go ahead and go to Web Test 2. Perfect, same thing, another public IP and a private IP. So, first thing you can do, right here from this quick action screen, I can go ahead and enable the firewall. So I'm going to do that for both Web Test 1 and Web Test 2. So I'm just going to check the boxes next to their name, Actions, Enable Firewall. Great. Firewall enabled for both of those instances. Let's go back and refresh. And now all traffic is blocked by default. So we're going to have to also create some rules to allow traffic to come in. So let's go ahead and go down to Network. We're going to go to Firewall. And it's going to say we don't have any rules. So let's go ahead and add a new rule. So we want to make sure we're in the correct data center, US East 1, that's where our instances live. Let's go ahead and close those tabs. So data center East 1, we're going to give it a description. We're going to say block web traffic. Okay. Protocol TCP. We're going to do port 80. And we're going to say from any. And we're going to say block. And we're going to say 2. Now in 2, you can go ahead and use any. That'd be all of the VMs in your DC. Subnet, IP, all of my VMs in my DC, tag, and instance. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and use instance. So it's going to provide us with an option here to go ahead and select the instance without having to remember all the details right off the top of our head. So we're going to go ahead and Web Test 1, we're going to go ahead and block traffic there. And we're going to go ahead and create that rule. Protocol condition. Forgot to hit add, so I'm going to make sure I hit add. Don't forget to hit add, of course, like I just said, on those items first. And so port 80 from any action block to that first VM. So go ahead and create that rule. And when you create a rule, it's going to be disabled. So let's go ahead and enable that rule. Let's go ahead and look at that rule. All right. So that's block traffic. So let's go ahead and add another rule. And this time we're going to do it for Web Test 2. That's going to allow traffic to come through. So we're going to do a new rule, port 80. So we're going to use some of the same data we just used. Port 80 from any action allow. And we're going to say 2 instance. Web Test 2. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and add a new rule. All right, we're going to do status enabled, US East 1, description allow web traffic to Web Test 2. Protocol, it's going to be the same as before, port 80, add, say from any, add, action allow, and we're going to say 2 instance, and we're going to use Web Test 2. And we're going to go ahead and create that rule. All right, so, and we're going to go ahead and go to our instances here, and let's go to Web Test 1, and we've blocked port 80, so it shouldn't allow us to get through to that page. Looks like it's working correctly. Now let's go ahead and try to go to Web Test 2. That has that firewall rule to allow traffic. And look, you can get right in. Okay, and so another option, let's show, let's go ahead and block SSH access. So what we're going to do, we're going to make it so you cannot SSH into web test 2. Okay, from any IP address except for using that fabric network. So let's go back into our firewall rules. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add a new rule. This time TCP is going to be port 22. And we're going to say from any block. And we're going to say to web test 2. Now that rule needs to be enabled. Let's go ahead and try to SSH into web test 2. Looks like it's just spinning around. So we know that rule's in place. All right, so let's go ahead and create a rule that's going to allow us to SSH from web test 1 to web test 2 while still blocking all the other traffic. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to information about web test 1. We're going to go find that fabric network IP. So we're going to go ahead and go down to networks. And we're going to see this fabric network here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and back into network and firewall. We're going to go ahead and create a new rule, port 22, and we're going to say from IP address, add, and we're going to say allow, and we're going to say to web test 2. So we're going to select instance web test 2. Add, okay, create rule. So the firewall by default is blocking all traffic, so we do need to go ahead and create a rule that allows SSH traffic to go to web test 1 by creating a rule right here using TCP port 22 and allowing traffic to go to web test 1. So we'll go ahead and add that rule right now. Make sure it's enabled. And now we're going to be able to SSH into web test 1. Triton SSH web test 1. And connect. And there we are. So let's just go ahead and try to SSH into web test 2 directly. No luck. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go to ifconfig. All right, we can see this is our IP address, and the private one is .9 for web test 2 into web test 2. Now we don't have our SSH key from this instance built in, so it's going to deny us the connection, but I'm going to show and at least demonstrate that the traffic is going through. All right, it's asking for a password because our key isn't in there. But we can show you that now you can SSH, basically a jump box, using the only things that are on this IP address. So only this IP address, 192.168.128.8 on the fabric network is able to SSH into that box. Well, that's some basic firewall rules to show you how that works. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.